Zone with yours truly, Anthony Smith. Glad to be here. Thank you very much. Appreciate the applause. Appreciate the applause very much. And what do I have on tap for you while you are locked in the zone? Well, I'm going to start my talk with some WNBA talk. Going to look at the power rankings. And then we're going to talk about the WNBA All-Star voting. Because there is definitely a head scratcher. One I cannot figure out. And maybe somebody who's listening can help me out with this. But we're going to look at the power rankings first. So looking at the Week 7 power rankings for the WNBA, you have to begin this week's power rankings with a shout out to Sue Bird, who announced on Thursday that 2022 will indeed be her final WNBA season. And I'm pretty sure that's the applause that she will get when she walks off that court for the final time, whether it's at home or whether it's on a visitor's court. But she announced Thursday that 2022 will indeed be her final WNBA season, ahead of Seattle's final regular season game in her hometown of New York City on Sunday. In her tweet at S10Bird, I've decided this will be my final year. I have loved every single minute and still do. So, going to play my last year just like this little girl played her first. And what you will see is a picture on her Twitter page of her in her current state and a picture of her throwback when she was a child. Any power rankings of all-time WNBA greats will have Sue Bird near the top of the list. As the league's all-time leader in assists and games played, Bird ranks in the top 10 in points, 7th steals, 4th field goals made, 8th three-pointers made, 2nd and three-point percentage, 10th. But her impact on the game goes far beyond the incredible numbers that she's amassed since entering the WNBA as a top pick in the 2002 draft. In addition to winning 4 WNBA championships with the Storm, 5 Olympic gold medals with Team USA, and being named to every WNBA anniversary team, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and the W25 last season, Bird has set the standard for point guard play on the court, and her leadership and impact off the court is immeasurable. Thank you, Sue, for everything you've given the game and the WNBA. Oh, and that final trip to New York went pretty well too. Playing in front of her family and hometown friends, Bird knocked down the dagger three-pointer in the final minute, a shot that danced on the rim, off the backboard, and finally through the net. All while Bird held her up her follow-through of her final WNBA shot in New York City, unless these two teams meet in the playoffs. After being showered by a standing ovation from the Barclays Center crowd, Bird joined Holly Rose to share her thoughts on a special day in her final season. If you haven't checked out yet, enjoy it.
Well, Sue, I know it was a lot of emotion this week when you publicly announced your retirement. You said it was for New York, so how did this meet your expectation for a fond farewell to you?
Unbelievable. I want to thank the New York Liberty. They really showed me a lot of love in getting my family tickets. The team wore Thank You Sue shirts to warm up. That took me totally off guard and by surprise. To all the fans who came out, thank you so much. I've got, people in here that I've known my whole life, friends, family. Old friends, new friends, some homies. I see you, Jesus and Tommy. It's really been amazing. I'm so glad that I was able to hit my final shot in my final game in New York.
You held that up there for a minute, too. How about that?
I had to. It didn't look like it was going in for a second.
I know the win is important to you, but also your legacy here in New York City. You started out playing as a kid on the playgrounds here. What is the legacy you leave to this city? I saw a sign that said it best, Sue York City.
This is where I grew up, and anybody knows who's from New York. It teaches you a lot about basketball, and there is a legacy here. New York basketball is the best, and I just tried to uphold my side of it, and now it's time to pass the torch. I do have one last thing to say. I don't think the Brooklyn fans are going to like it. Bing bong.
So there you heard comments from one Sue Bird in her final game in New York. Like it says, unless they happen to meet up in the playoffs. So here are the power rankings. 1, Las Vegas Aces, 13-2. Previous ranking, number 1. Last week's results, win at Dallas, 92-84. Win versus Minnesota, 96-95. This week's schedule, Tuesday versus Chicago, Saturday versus Washington. Team stats, offensive rating, 109 points. Ranked number 1. Defensive rating, 97.5. Ranked number 5 on that. Net ranking, 11.5. 1. Field goal efficiency, 52.8. 1. Pace, 83.71. The Aces remain at the top of the rankings as they finished a 2-0 week to extend their win streak to 4 straight games. Las Vegas also clinched its spot in the Commissioner's Cup Championship game as the Western Conference representative. Oh, and there may not be a player in the league as hot as Ajay Wilson over her past 3 games, 28.3 points, 61.1 field goal percentage, 57.1 3-point percentage, 100% free throw shooting, splits, 8-point rebounds, 3.3 blocks, 2-point assists, and 1.7 steals per game. Number 2, Connecticut Suns, 12-5. Previous ranking, 3. Last week's results, Atlanta, 105-92. Win versus Seattle, 82-71. Loss at Washington, 71-63. This week's schedule, Wednesday versus New York Liberty. Sunday at Atlanta. Team stats, offensive rating, 107.1. Good enough for second. Defensive rating, 96.4, coming in with the number 4 ranking. Net ranking, 10.5, coming in at number 2. Efficient field goal percentage, 51.6, coming in at number 2. Pace, 40, 80.62, coming in at number 6. After opening the week with home wins over Atlanta and Seattle, the Suns were unable to close out the perfect week as they fell to the Mystics in Washington on Sunday. Connecticut scored a season-low 63 points and shot a season-low 36.7% from the field and finished with more turnovers than assists. So far this season, Connecticut is just 7-5 against teams that are 500 or better and 5-0 against teams under 500. Number 3, Chicago Sky, coming in with a 10-5 record. Previous ranking, number 2. Last week's results, a win versus Atlanta, 106-100. Loss at Indiana, 89-87. This week's schedule, Tuesday at Las Vegas and Thursday at Los Angeles. Sunday versus Minnesota. The Sky saw their 3-game win streak come to a close on Sunday as they fell to Indiana, 89-87, despite getting a career-high 28 points from Kalia Cooper and leading by as many as 15 points in the second half. Chicago was without Candace Parker for the second straight game as she nurses a knee injury. Even with the loss, the Sky were able to clinch their spot in the Commissioner's Cup Championship on Sunday, thanks to Washington knocking off Connecticut and ensuring Chicago finished atop the East Cup standings. While the Commissioner's Cup Championship is still a month away, the Sky have a 3-game week have a 3-game week ahead of them, beginning with a road game against the top-ranked Aces on Tuesday. Number 4, the Washington Mystic, 11-7. Previous rank 4. Last week's results: win versus Phoenix, 83-65. Loss at New York Liberty, 77-65. Win versus Connecticut, 71-63. This week's schedule: Tuesday at Las Vegas, Thursday at Seattle, Saturday at Las Vegas. The Mystic went 2-1 this week, and the wins and losses tracked with Elena Delle Donne's availability. Delle Donne played Wednesday against Phoenix in D.C. The Mystic won by 18 points. Delle Donne did not play at New York. 2 days later, the Mystic lost by 12 points. Delle Donne played on Sunday against Connecticut in D.C. The Mystic won by 8 points. Washington is 8-3 with Delle Donne in the lineup and 3-4 when she's out. Of the 11 games that Delle Donne has played, only 2 have come on the road. This week, the Mystic are on the road for 3 straight games on a West Coast swing, visiting Los Angeles, Seattle, and Las Vegas. Number 5, Seattle Storm, 10-6. Previous ranking, number 5. Last week's results: a win at Minnesota, 81-79. Loss at Connecticut, 82-71. Win at New York, 81-72. This week's schedule: Thursday versus Washington, Saturday versus Las Vegas. The Storm went 2-1 this week as they closed out a 5-game road trip with stops in Minnesota, a win, Connecticut loss, and New York win. Up next is a 4-game homestand beginning Thursday against Washington as the Climate Pledge Arena crowd gets to cheer for Sue Bird and the Storm for the first time since Bird announced her retirement last week. Dallas Wings, 8-8. Previous ranking 8. This week 6. Last week's results: a loss versus Las Vegas, 92-84. Win versus Phoenix, 93-88. Win versus Los Angeles, 92-82. This week's schedule: Tuesday at Atlanta, Thursday versus Indiana, Saturday versus Phoenix. After a promising 5-2 start to the season, the Dallas Wings had lost 6 of their next 7 games as they entered Friday's game against Phoenix at 6-8 and in desperate need to win to get their season back on track. Behind Enrique Agambawol, 24 points and 36 and 6 3-pointers, and Tierra McCown's double-double off the bench, the Wings ended their skid with a 93-88 win. They followed it up 2 days later with a 10-point win over Los Angeles to get back to 500 on the season. Number 7, the Atlanta Dream, at 7-8. Previous ranked 6. Last week's results: loss at Connecticut, 105-92. Loss at Chicago, 106-100. This week's schedule: Tuesday versus Dallas, Friday versus New York, Sunday versus Connecticut. The Dream posted an 0-2 week, suffering road losses to the top 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, Connecticut 12-5 and Chicago 10-5. To extend their losing streak to 4 in a row. What made the losses to the Sun and Sky uncharacteristic for the Dream is that they allowed over 100 points in both games, after holding opponents to a league low average of 74.4 points per game entering last week. After a promising 4-1 start, the Dream have gone 3-7 in their last 10 games. They look to get back on track this week with a 3-game homestand against Dallas, New York, and Connecticut. Number 8, Phoenix Mercury at 6-10. One can't help but to say, if only they had Brittney Griner. Last week's result: loss at Washington, 83-65. Win at Indiana, 93-80. Loss at Dallas, 93-88. This week's schedule: Tuesday versus Minnesota, Thursday at Minnesota, Saturday at Dallas. Phoenix 3-game win streak was snapped on Tuesday in the second of a 2-game set against the Washington Mystic. The Mercury bounced back with a 93-80 win over the Fever in Indiana on the second night of a back-to-back but couldn't keep the momentum going in Dallas. They fell to the Wings 93-88. Phoenix opens the week with a home-and-home set with Minnesota beginning Tuesday in Phoenix. Can the Mercury get back on track against the 3-13 Lynx? Number 9, New York Liberty at 6-10. Previous rank, number 9. Last week's results, win versus Washington, 77-65. Loss versus Seattle, 81-72. This week's schedule, Wednesday at Connecticut, Friday at Atlanta. After enduring a 7-game losing streak, the Liberty have won 5 of their last 8 games, including a win over Washington on Thursday, behind a season-high 27 points from Natasha Howard. However, 2 days later, the Liberty fell to Seattle on what turned into Snubbed Day in Brooklyn. Liberty got a career-best 23 points from Maureen Johannes, while Sabrina Ionescu finished just 2 rebounds shy of her 3rd career triple-double and 2nd in a 3-game span. The Liberty will play 5 of their next 6 games on the road, beginning Wednesday in Connecticut, where they look to knock off the Sun for the 2nd time this season. Number 10, the Los Angeles Sparks, 5-9. Previous ranking, 10. Last week's result, loss at Dallas, 92-82. This week's schedule, Tuesday versus Washington, Thursday versus Chicago, Saturday versus Seattle. The Sparks had just 1 game in each of the past 2 weeks and lost both, falling to Las Vegas 89-72 in their first game under interim head coach Fred Williams on June 11th, and falling to Dallas 92-82 on Sunday to fall to 5-9 on the season. After having just 2 games in a 14-day span, the Sparks' schedule is about to pick up as they will play 8 games over the next 17 days, beginning Tuesday with the Sparks host the Mystic. Coming in at number 11, Indiana Fever, 5-13. Previous rank, 11. Last week's results, loss versus Phoenix, 93-80. Win versus Chicago, 89-87. This week's schedule, Thursday at Dallas. For a young team looking to build a foundation and a culture, Sunday's win over the defending champion Sky will be one to build up on. Trailing by as many as 15 points in the second half, the Fever could have packed it in, but they kept fighting, led by rookie Melissa Smith, who finished with a career-high 26 points, including the go-ahead 3-point play to put Indiana up for good with 39 seconds to play. The Fever beat the Sky 89-87 to earn their 5th win of the season. And coming in at number 12, the Minnesota Lynx, 3-13. Previous ranking, 12. Last week's results, loss versus Seattle, 81-79. Loss at Las Vegas, 96-95. The Lynx saw their losing streak extend to 5 games after finishing 0-2 over the past week. Minnesota's last 3 games have been decided by a total of 7 points. A 4-point loss to Indiana on June 12th, a 2-point loss to Seattle last Tuesday, and a 1-point road loss to Las Vegas on Sunday after leading by as many as 14 points in the second half. The Lynx appear on the verge of finally breaking through and adding some wins. Their first shot comes Tuesday in Phoenix in an opening game of a home-and-home set with the Mystic before the Lynx head to Chicago on Sunday. So there you have the WNBA power rankings. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, I will have some more for you. So stay locked in the zone. Yours truly, Anthony Smith. Welcome back to In the Zone with Anthony. So glad you're still locked in. On a Friday evening. Glad you're here with me. There's another story I want to look at, and yes, it is concerning the WNBA. The WNBA All-Star Game voting slammed after snub of Phoenix Mercury's Skyler Diggins-Smith. Yeah, that is a mystery. That is a mystery. The WNBA named its starters for the 2022 All-Star Game on Wednesday, and the Phoenix Mercury's Brittney Griner, detained in Russia, was named an honorary starter, a nice gesture from the league. But the omission of another Phoenix Mercury player from the starting lineup for the July 10 game in Chicago rankled many media members and fans. Mercury guard Skyler Diggins-Smith was not among the starters for the game, despite being in the midst of an excellent season. Diggins-Smith is averaging 18.7 points per game and 5.3 assists per game this season. She is adding 3.7 rebounds per game. It appears that Diggins-Smith can blame the WNBA players for her snub. She was fourth in fan voting for the All-Star Game starters and third in voting done by the media. But Diggins-Smith finished 14th in the voting done by WNBA players. Yes, 14th. Yeah, that's mysterious. Fan voting accounts for 50% of the vote. Media counts for 25%. The player voting accounts for the other 25%. Maybe their vote shouldn't count. 14th. Skyler Diggins-Smith, 14th. Diggins-Smith finished 6th overall among guards because of the low player voting total. Does the Mercury's Skyler Diggins-Smith deserve to be a WNBA All-Star Game starter? I think she does. For the Win couldn't understand why Diggins-Smith was so disrespected, Cole Huff wrote. So the Phoenix Mercury haven't had a good season, but neither have the Los Angeles Sparks, Minnesota Lynx, or New York Liberty. Yet those teams all have a player starting in the 2022 All-Star Game. There's an argument to be made that Skyler Diggins-Smith is having just as good of a season as Sylvia Fowles, Nika Agwuemeke, or Sabrina Ionescu. Smith is having one of the best seasons of her career, and it's hardly being talked about. Can anyone help me understand why? Like Elisa Thomas, Diggins-Smith should undoubtedly be named as an all-star reserve. CBS Sports questioned the low player vote for Diggins-Smith. Jack Maloney wrote, perhaps the most interesting note from the voting results was that the Phoenix Mercury Skyler Diggins-Smith, 6.25, missed out on starting due to a bizarrely low player vote. She had the fourth most fan votes and third most media votes, but was 14th in player votes. Social media also reacted to Skyler Diggins-Smith's WNBA All-Star Game starting snub. Why the players think so lowly of Candace Parker and Skyler Diggins-Smith based on how they voted. Chris Williamson at C. Williamson 44. What did Skyler Diggins-Smith do to turn the rest of the players into some haters? Because voting her 14th among players this season is wild. And that would be at Tia Reed 65. Skyler Diggins-Smith does not make hashtag WNBA All-Star Game starter, but she deserves to be an All-Star. At Jeff Metcalf. Nothing against Sue Bird, and I get the final year deal, but Diggins-Smith is having much better season. Hashtag WNBA. Also from at Jeff Metcalf. Logging on to defend Skyler Diggins-Smith and Candace Parker from their peers. At Lil_Butts. These WNBA players in the league got to stop disrespecting Candace Parker and Skyler Diggins-Smith. They really had the 13th and 14th most votes among players. Among her peers, Candace Parker might be the most disrespected player in WNBA history. 28 Savage at Alicia_Jones. That's disgusting how the Skyler Diggins-Smith ranked by players 14th. Are you serious? At one Nathan Snell. This must be a different Candace Parker and Skyler Diggins-Smith, because ain't no way that player ranking is ridiculous for both of them. Wow. Can't be the same two players I've been watching my entire life. And it just goes on and on. We could just read the rest of these tweets off. As a matter of fact, you know what? I am going to go ahead and do that, because it's interesting, because you think nobody pays attention to the WNBA until you start seeing all the tweets when it comes to something like this. Skyler Diggins-Smith and Candace Parker have been robbed by a player vote in WNBA All-Star Starter. How and why? How? That's a question mark. And why? Question mark. Jealousy? Question mark. At D.A. Diddy Awan. Live look at the WNBA players after conspiring to voting against Skyler Diggins-Smith in the All-Star Starters vote. Y'all know she should be starting. The 94x50 Women's Basketball Network at the 9450 WBB. Skyler Diggins-Smith has been disrespected too much. Probably don't want to make her mad. She plays better. At Kendall Hilson. They did Skyler Diggins-Smith dirty, shaking my head. At T_Robs08. So here's the question. Do you think Skyler Diggins-Smith should have been named a NBA All-Star Game starter? Absolutely, in my opinion, absolutely. This is indeed a travesty and a conspiracy. And somebody needs to fix it. Where is somebody now like the obnoxious Stephen A. Smith when we need him? So he can bring attention to this matter. Also, in more news, Brittney Griner named Honorary Starter for WNBA All-Star Game. The WNBA is awarding Brittney Griner an honorary spot at the WNBA All-Star Game. Al Jazeera reports. Kathy Engelbert, WNBA Commissioner, said that starters were chosen based on fan, media, and player voting. During each season of Brittney's career in which there has been an All-Star Game, she has been selected as an All-Star, Engelbert said. She continued, saying it's not difficult to imagine that if B.G. Griner were here with us this season, she would once again be selected and would no doubt show off her incredible talents. So it is only fitting that she be named as an honorary starter today, and we continue to work on her safe return to the USA. Breonna Stewart, and Ajay Wilson received the most fan votes and were selected as co-captains for the WNBA game. Sue Bird and Sylvia Fowles, who are both retiring at the end of the season, will join them. This will be Bird's 13th All-Star game. Fowles is currently injured but has been selected for her 8th game. NBA coaches will vote for the 12 reserves, and the co-captains will draft their rosters on July 2nd. The game is scheduled for July 10 in Chicago and will include a 3-point competition and skills challenge. The announcement comes shortly after the news of Griner's detention extension. Blavity previously reported the center has been detained in Russia since February 17th after airport authorities said she had vape cartridges containing hash oil. She's now expected to remain in custody through July the 2nd. 40 advocacy group, including the National Organization for Women, Human Rights Campaign, and GLAAD, have come together to ask President Joe Biden to make a deal to secure the center's release. They expressed that they appreciate the Biden administration's effort to bring Griner home, namely by labeling her as wrongful detained and assigning diplomats to work for her release. But more needs to be done. Let me say that again. More needs to be done. The U.S. government has acknowledged that Brittney is essentially a political pawn in classifying her as wrongfully detained, the advocacy groups said in a letter to Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. The letter also stated that while these have been critically important measures, we now urge you to make a deal to get Brittney back home to America immediately and safely. So the gesture and the fact that now it seems like at least someone is forcing the government's hand, hopefully we can bring this to a closure. But also keep in mind that there are others over there that are detained. Let's see what we can do to get the rest of our people back to the U.S. I know Brittney Griner, she is that one with that celebrity status, and I'm not saying that she should get preferential treatment, but at the same time, I think efforts need to be stepped up to get her home. Also, if you heard Trevor Scott make his statements how they get treated over there, the former Marine that was released not too long ago, I think it behooves us to pray for each and every one of our American citizens who are over there being detained in such conditions that something be done to get them home. So, in closing, I just want to say, we are BG, and you can hashtag that. Well, I have enjoyed myself, and I hope you have enjoyed the content of this podcast as well, as I must be making my way to get ready for work. Hope you enjoy your weekend. I will be back to do this again. Also, I will be doing my In the Daily Word podcast as well too, so I will be giving you more information on that. But until the next time, please do me a favor. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the weekend. And once again, I'll be back to bring you more in the zone at a later time and date. Until next time, this is Anthony Smith, and to always stay locked into the zone.